back to another episode of the Real Health Podcast. This last episode of our series, How to Increase Lifespan, how to increase life expectancy, will be all about exercise, strength training, and VO2 max. If you want to know how to maximize your time in the gym or out of the gym, it's to increase lifespan, this episode is definitely for you. We are going to talk about the greatest predictor that can be measured in lifespan, which is relative to exercise, which is called VO2 max. We're also talking about strength and endurance training as well. Hey, just a reminder, our Manna Monday is no longer on the Real Health Co. podcast forum. It's going to be specifically as a separate program called Manna Monday. You can research it on all podcast platforms, and make sure you go over and subscribe to our Manna Monday podcast, because that's where all episodes that have been recorded and future episodes that will be recorded will be on that platform. Okay, check out Manna Monday, every Monday, 5-minute kind of start your week off right podcast. All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about how to increase life expectancy or lifespan by utilizing exercise. The first thing I want to talk about is simple, just leisure time running. Research shows that even small amounts of running can pay dividends in life expectancy. There was a study that showed adults who ran even less than an hour a week, actually it was 51 minutes a week. If you ran 51 minutes a week, you experienced a 30% lower risk of all-cause mortality and a 45% lower risk of cardiovascular disease. And this was compared obviously to non-runners. And if you were a persistent runner, it was tied to around 3 additional years of life expectancy. And that's just leisure running. We're not even talking about competitive running. What about walking, right? Number 2, walking. Just 15 minutes a day can actually cut your mortality risk. A key finding showed in nearly 17-year study of 80,000 people, only 15 minutes of brisk walking each day can lead to a 20% reduction in mortality risk. And especially obvious, it's obvious from the cardiovascular system or cardiovascular diseases. So that's just 15 minutes walking. So if you did 15 minutes of walking a day and tied in about an hour worth of running every single week, you would significantly reduce all mortality risk. What does steps mean, right? We spend so much time talking about steps. How many steps should I get? 7,000 steps a day yields big gains. There was a meta-analysis that showed walking 7K per day was associated with a 47% lower risk in lower mortality rate compared to those that were walking about 2,000 steps per day. There's additional health benefits that plateau, that kind of starts to plateau about 7,000. So is it worth doing more? Well, it looks like 7,000 is kind of the key to get to. And then obviously we can start to move from 7,000 steps a day into other modalities of training like strength training. We're going to talk about our VO2 max training. So this is a great prediction model for disease, a great prediction model for early death. Adults over 40 increasing to the level of most active, okay? So that's about 160 minutes per day of movement. It's pretty easy. Can actually add up to 11 years to your lifespan if you move your body 160 minutes a day. What does that mean? It means, are you up and moving, walking, using your body to some degree 160 minutes a day? If you're sitting all day, every day, you will decrease your risk of decrease your life expectancy, decrease your lifespan. We are made to move, and so we got to get up and move. So again, research shows an hour of walking a day can equal 6 more life hours each day. Each day. Every day you walk an hour can increase 6 hours of your lifespan. Think about that for a second. And if you just stack those days one over another, that's how we increase life expectancy. Now let's talk about more like moderate to vigorous exercise. there is a dose response here that if we're adhering to the guideline of about 150 to 300 minutes per week of training, of moderate training, okay? Moderate exercise would be, in the gym typically, or at home in your at-home gym. It cuts all-cause mortality by up to 31%. That's substantial. And then if you were to even increase beyond that, over 300, we start to get a 2 to 4x return on that investment compared to just 300 minutes per week. One of the things I want to camp out probably the most in is strength training. Strength training we talk about a lot. Strength training increases bone mass, bone density, muscle mass. It has a great metabolic regulation, so it helps balance blood sugar, and it reduces the risk of chronic disease-related deaths. If you strength train, it is linked to a 17% reduction in all-cause mortality. Strength training is massive in its ability to help. I mean, if you strength train and get your 7,000 steps in every day, you are making such a massive dent in all-cause mortality. You're increasing lifespan just simply from those two modalities, walking and strength training. It's really simple and it's low risk for injury. But hey, I'd rather you get injured walking or strength training or running than having a heart attack on the couch. So let's get up and let's move our bodies. One of the biggest things that we're going to talk about here, and one of my favorite things to help people understand, is something called VO2 max. If you actually look at lifespan and you measure what's termed VO2 max, if you measure it and you increase it, the term we use is called 1 MET, we increase it and make it better, then you will directly decrease your mortality risk. You will directly increase lifespan and life expectancy. VO2 max is your maximum aerobic capacity. So it's just the highest amount of oxygen your body can use during intense exercise. It integrates the heart and the lungs and blood and muscles, and it really is the gold standard of cardiorespiratory fitness. A higher VO2 max, the higher it is, the longer you live. It is that simple. It's direct correlation, and so we should be striving to increase our VO2 max. Actually, the American Heart Association recommends treating VO2 max as a clinical vital sign. If you go in and get your blood pressure taken, they should be checking your VO2 max. It's that important as a predictor of cardiovascular disease and other risk factors. So, 2023, there's a meta-analysis done that showed 1 MET improvement of your VO2 max, so just a subtle increase of your VO2 max, is linked to an 11% lower risk of all-cause mortality. So just getting your VO2 max up 1, okay, just a little bit better, is linked to 11% lower risk of all-cause mortality. And those in the top third of VO2 max, top 1/3, top 33%, which, come on, let's be honest, look around you. It's not that hard to probably be in that third. It was associated with a 45% lower mortality than that of the bottom third. Think about that. VO2 max is such a substantial claim here that says, hey, if you get into the top third, you have 45% lower mortality than those in the bottom third. VO2 max is as more powerful predictor of death risk than even your traditional metrics like BMI, for instance. That is so outdated science when we look at BMI, whereas VO2 max is the gold standard nowadays and should be treated that way. One study tracked midlife individuals over the course of years and found that for every bit of rise in their VO2 max, it corresponded with an additional 45 days of expected lifespan increase. 45 days for every 1 milliliter per kilogram per minute. So we call that a MET. So getting your VO2 max, again, increases the days of how long you're going to live. And healthy days, not just long life, but long, healthy life. In a cohort of 400,000 high fitness or really high VO2 max, again, was associated with lower mortality, even in patients that were obese. Whereas low fitness greatly increased the risk regardless of BMI. So how do we do it? How do we increase VO2 max? VO2 max, we're gonna camp out here because this is probably the most important. You know how to increase strength. If this week you do 3 by 10 at 10 pounds dumbbells, next week you do 3 by 12 at 10 pounds. Then the next week you do 3 by 10 at 15 pounds. You just progressive overload. Okay, very simple. Strength training is very simple. Do more than you did last week in reps or weight, and you're going to get stronger. But at VO2 max, the first way to increase your VO2 max is high-intensity interval training or HIIT training, where short bursts at about 80 to 90% max heart rate, alternate with recovery, promote rapid gains in your VO2 max. The best way to do this is what we call Tabata. Check it out, Tabata, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, for 8 cycles, which is 4 minutes of work and rest, is a great way to increase VO2 max. Number 1, Tabata or high-intensity interval training. Number 2, Zone 2 steady-state cardio. This is where you got to think conversational pace cardio. You can literally, whether it's walking, jogging, biking, running, hill climbing, trail climbing, running, whatever. Can you have a conversation doing it? Usually you're at a zone 2 level. You got to get your heart rate to a certain level. Maybe that's 110, 20, 30 beats per minute. But when you hang out there, you build an aerobic base and mitochondrial density. Zone 2 is fantastic to build VO2 max. Those are the 2 ways to build VO2 max. You don't want to camp out at about 150, 160 heart rate. That is what we call the gray zone. Fitness does not occur in the gray zone. Fitness occurs with low, slow, steady heart rate, 110, 20, 30, and really, really, really high heart rate, short rest, short rest, short rest. That's how we go to the 2 ends of the spectrum and we don't camp out in the middle. That's how we increase VO2 max. If we do those plus strength train, we're going to live longer, healthier, happier lives. Hey, this content is designed to give you just practical, applicable information to immediately start your health journey. We're not asking for anything from you. We want to just add value to you. So thanks again for listening to another episode of the Real Health Podcast. Our passion is to add value to your healthcare journey. Anything that we do, we want to do it within a community to help as many people as possible. Thanks for listening to episodes of the Real Health Podcast. If you could subscribe, and you can share, it would help our mission to reach as many people with real health that produces real results for real people.